I watched my friend disappear into a bathroom stall as Sarah and emerged 2 days later as someone I didn't recognize. Same face, completely different human. The scariest part? She couldn't even remember who she used to be. Here's what happened during those 48 hours. Your brain is wired to resist change. It's designed to keep you safe, predictable, and exactly where you are right now. But here's what neuroscientists have discovered that changes everything when you apply intense, focused pressure for just 48 hours. Your brain doesn't have time to mount its usual resistance. Most people think transformation takes months or years. They're wrong. The neural pathways in your brain can start rewiring in as little as 2 days when the conditions are right. Olympic athletes have known this secret for decades. Before major competitions, they don't spend months gradually adjusting their mindset. They use what's called a performance reset, a concentrated 48-hour period where they completely shift their mental state, habits, and identity. Michael Phelps did this before breaking world records. Serena Williams used rapid mental resets between matches. These weren't gentle, gradual changes. They were sudden, dramatic shifts that happened fast enough to bypass the brain's natural resistance to change. The science behind this is fascinating. When you make a sudden, strong shift in behavior, your brain enters what researchers call neuroplasticity overdrive. New neural connections form rapidly. Old patterns get temporarily disrupted. And here's the weird part. Your brain actually becomes more flexible during periods of intense change, not less. Dr. Sarah McKay, a leading neuroscientist, found that concentrated change periods create what she calls neural momentum. The first 48 hours are critical because that's when new pathways are most moldable. After that window, your brain starts to solidify whatever patterns you've been reinforcing. But why 48 hours specifically? Well, it turns out your brain needs about 2 full sleep cycles to begin consolidating new behaviors into long-term memory. 1 day isn't quite enough. 3 days gives your old patterns time to fight back. 2 days hits the sweet spot. Then there's the identity factor. Most people underestimate how quickly they can change who they are at a core level. Your sense of self isn't as fixed as you think. It's more like a story you tell yourself every day, and stories can be rewritten fast when you're intentional about it. Professional actors understand this better than anyone. They can slip into completely different personalities within hours of getting a new role. Method actors like Daniel Day-Lewis have been known to maintain new identities for weeks or months, proving that personality is far more flexible than we assume. Your current identity, the person you think you are right now, was probably formed by accident. Most people never consciously chose who they became. They just absorbed beliefs from family, friends, failures, and random experiences. The good news? If your identity was formed by accident, it can be reformed on purpose. The brain doesn't distinguish between real and imagined experiences when they're vivid enough. This is why visualization works so well for rapid change. When you intensely focus on being a different person for 48 hours, your brain starts treating that new identity as real. Environment plays a huge role here. Your current surroundings are constantly reinforcing your current identity. The clothes in your closet, the food in your fridge, the apps on your phone, they're all whispering this is who you are every single day. Change your environment quickly and dramatically, and those whispers change too. Makes sense, right? If you've been trying to change gradually and failing, it's not because you lack willpower. It's because gradual change gives your old patterns time to adapt and fight back. Rapid change catches them off guard. Professional transformation coaches use something called identity shock therapy. They help clients make such dramatic shifts in such a short time that the old self doesn't have time to resist. It's like ripping off a Band-Aid instead of peeling it slowly. The most successful people in the world, entrepreneurs, athletes, artists, they don't wait for change to happen slowly. They engineer rapid transformations when they need them. Steve Jobs was famous for completely reinventing himself multiple times throughout his career, often in a matter of days or weeks. And the weird part is, once you prove to yourself that rapid change is possible, future changes become easier. Your brain learns that identity is flexible, not fixed. Each successful 48-hour transformation builds your confidence for the next one. Here's what most self-help books won't tell you. Your current beliefs about yourself are probably outdated anyway. They're based on old information, past failures, and limited experiences. Those beliefs feel true, but they're just stories your brain keeps repeating. The question isn't whether you can change in 48 hours. The question is whether you're ready to stop living from an identity that was never consciously chosen in the first place. Before you can transform into someone new, you need to get crystal clear about who you think you are right now. Ever wonder why you keep doing the same things even when you want to change? Here's the uncomfortable truth. You're not really making conscious decisions most of the time. You're following a script written by your subconscious mind, a script about who you think you are. Most people walk through life completely unaware of the invisible puppet master pulling their strings. That puppet master? Your self-image. It's the collection of beliefs you hold about yourself, and it controls everything from how you dress to how you talk to strangers. While you think you're choosing your actions based on logic or goals, your brain is actually filtering every decision through one simple question: is this something a person like me would do? The weird part is, most of these beliefs about yourself aren't even yours. They're hand-me-downs from childhood, leftovers from past failures, or assumptions you made about yourself years ago that somehow became permanent residents in your mind. That voice saying, "I'm not good with money," or "I'm just not a morning person," it's probably older than your last 3 relationships combined. Dr. Maltz, a plastic surgeon, noticed something strange about his patients back in the 1960s. Even after he gave them the nose or face they wanted, many still acted like the same insecure person they were before surgery. He realized their external change meant nothing because their internal self-image stayed the same. His research showed that people will unconsciously sabotage success if it doesn't match their self-concept. Makes sense, right? Your brain would rather be right about who you are than let you become someone better. Then there's the fascinating study from Stanford where researchers asked people to describe themselves in writing. What they found was alarming. Most participants were living from identities that were years out of date. A successful businesswoman still saw herself as the awkward kid who got picked on in high school. A confident father described himself using insecurities from his 20s. They were literally trapped in old versions of themselves. Your self-image works like a thermostat. When your actions start to drift too far from who you believe you are, it kicks in to pull you back to normal. Ever notice how lottery winners often end up broke again, or how people who lose weight quickly tend to gain it back? Their actions temporarily changed, but their identity didn't. The thermostat kicked in. But here's where it gets interesting. Your brain doesn't distinguish between what's true and what you consistently tell yourself is true. If you've been running the story, "I'm terrible at public speaking" for 10 years, your brain has built neural pathways to support that belief. It will actually make you nervous, tongue-tied, and forgetful when you're in front of people, not because you are bad at speaking, but because your brain is trying to keep your behavior consistent with your identity. The sneaky thing about self-limiting beliefs is they're often invisible to the person holding them. You don't walk around thinking, "I believe I'm not worthy of success." Instead, you just find yourself not applying for the better job, not asking for the raise, or not starting the business. Your identity whispers its limitations so quietly, you think they're just facts about reality. Let's not forget how your environment reinforces these hidden beliefs. The clothes in your closet, the friends you hang out with, even the apps on your phone, they're all mirrors reflecting your current self-image back to you. That's why changing your life by changing your circumstances rarely works. You just recreate the same patterns in new places because you're still the same person on the inside. And the craziest part, most people defend their limiting beliefs like they're protecting family heirlooms. Challenge someone's belief that they're just not creative and watch them list every piece of evidence supporting that story. They'll fight harder to stay small than most people fight to grow. Well, what if you could expose these hidden programs running your life? What if you could actually see the invisible chains holding you back? The first step isn't trying to change anything, it's simply becoming aware of what's really there. Writing down your beliefs about yourself is like turning on a light in a room you thought you knew. Suddenly you see furniture you forgot was there. Some beliefs will surprise you with how outdated they are. Others will shock you with how harsh you've been to yourself. But you can't reprogram what you can't see. This awareness alone starts to loosen the grip of old identities. The moment you recognize a belief as just a belief, not a fact, something shifts. The thermostat starts to malfunction. Cracks appear in the walls of your mental prison, but seeing your current identity clearly is just the beginning. Next comes the really interesting part, breaking the stranglehold these old patterns have on your daily life and discovering just how much control they've been exercising without your permission. You've probably figured out by now that your brain isn't exactly thrilled about change. It's like that overprotective friend who warns you about everything new. Your mind has one job when it comes to transformation: keep you exactly where you are, safe, predictable. Boring as hell, but alive. Here's the thing most people miss about breaking old patterns. They think willpower is enough. They believe if they just try harder, grunt through the resistance, somehow they'll push past their old habits. Wrong. Your subconscious mind will win that fight every single time because it's not playing fair. The resistance you feel when trying to change, that's your brain's alarm system going off. It's screaming danger, unfamiliar territory ahead. Even if the change is good for you, even if you desperately want it, your mind treats anything new like a threat. Makes sense when you think about it. For thousands of years, sticking to familiar patterns kept humans alive. Wandering off the beaten path often meant becoming something else's dinner. But here's where it gets interesting. Your old patterns aren't just stored as thoughts or memories. They're wired into your nervous system, your muscle memory, even the way you breathe. When you walk into your childhood bedroom, you might find yourself slouching the same way you did at 16. When that one song comes on the radio, suddenly you're feeling emotions from years ago. These aren't accidents. Scientists call them environmental triggers, and they're everywhere. The coffee shop where you always complained about work, the mirror where you criticized your appearance, the chair where you scrolled social media for hours. Your brain has linked these places, sounds, and situations to specific versions of yourself. Step into the trigger zone, and boom, you're running the old program again. Then there's the sneaky part about identity protection. Your mind doesn't just resist new behaviors. It actively defends your current sense of self. If you've always seen yourself as not a morning person, your brain will make you extra tired when that 6 a.m. alarm goes off. If your identity includes being bad with money, you'll find creative ways to sabotage your budget. It's not lack of discipline, it's your subconscious doing its job. The weirdest part, sometimes the patterns we're most attached to are the ones hurting us the most. That friend who always plays the victim gets attention and sympathy from it. The person who stays chronically busy avoids dealing with deeper issues. The perfectionist who never finishes projects gets to avoid the scary possibility of being judged. These patterns serve a purpose, even when they're destroying our lives. Research from MIT shows something fascinating about habit loops. Every habit has three parts: a cue, a routine, and a reward. Most people try to change the routine, the actual behavior, but the cue and reward stay the same, so the old pattern creeps back in. You might replace cigarettes with gum, but you're still responding to stress the same way, still getting that brief moment of relief. The deeper pattern never broke. Well, here's the breakthrough that changes everything. You don't need to eliminate old patterns completely. You just need to interrupt them once. One interruption creates what neuroscientists call cognitive flexibility, a crack in the automatic response. It's like jamming a stick in the spokes of a bicycle wheel. The whole system has to pause and recalibrate. Let's not forget the power of awareness itself. Studies at UCLA found that simply naming what's happening in your brain, I'm feeling the urge to check my phone, or I'm running the I'm not good enough story again, reduces the pattern's intensity by up to 50%. Your brain literally can't run unconscious programs when you're consciously observing them. The most stubborn patterns often have emotional roots. Maybe you learned to people please because conflict felt dangerous as a kid. Maybe you developed perfectionist tendencies because mistakes brought criticism. These patterns made sense once. They were survival strategies. But now they're handcuffs. And the weird part is, your old identity will throw everything it has at you to stay in control. You'll get tired right when you're about to make a change. You'll suddenly remember urgent tasks that need your attention. Friends might even unconsciously try to pull you back to the familiar version of yourself they're comfortable with. But every pattern, no matter how strong, has a weak point. Every automatic response has that split second before it kicks in, that moment of choice. Most people miss it because they're not looking for it. Once you start paying attention, though, you'll catch it. And in that tiny gap between trigger and response, everything becomes possible. Now that you can see how your old patterns maintain their grip, you're ready for something most people never consider: deliberately choosing who you become next. You've cracked open your old identity and interrupted those automatic patterns that kept you stuck. Now comes the fun part: deciding who you actually want to become. Most people skip this step entirely. They know what they don't want, but they never get clear on what they do want. That's like trying to drive somewhere without knowing your destination. Here's what's wild about identity change. You don't need anyone's permission to reinvent yourself. Not your parents, not your friends, not even that voice in your head saying, "But this isn't who I am." Says who? Identity isn't some permanent tattoo you're stuck with forever. It's more like clothing. You can change it whenever you want. The brain doesn't care if your new identity seems realistic or not, it just follows instructions. When you consistently tell it, "I am confident," it starts looking for evidence to support that belief. When you say, "I am disciplined," it begins rewiring neural pathways to make disciplined choices feel natural. The catch? You have to be specific about who you're becoming. Vague wishes like "I want to be better" don't cut it. Your brain needs clear marching orders. "I am someone who exercises every morning" hits different than "I should probably work out more." One creates a new neural pathway. The other just creates guilt. Elite athletes figured this out decades ago. They don't just train their bodies, they train their identity. Michael Jordan didn't just practice basketball. He became someone who couldn't accept anything less than excellence. That identity shift made the behaviors automatic. The same principle works whether you're trying to become more confident, disciplined, creative, or anything else. Then there's the future self technique that neuroscientists are obsessing over right now. Studies show that when you vividly imagine your future identity, your brain starts building those pathways immediately, not next month. Not when you feel ready, right now while you're visualizing. CEOs use this constantly. They don't wait until they feel like a leader to start acting like one. They choose the identity first, then grow into it. Role models speed up this process dramatically. Find someone who already embodies what you want to become, then study how they think, speak, and move through the world. But here's where most people mess up. They try to become someone completely opposite to who they are now. That triggers massive resistance. Your brain sees that new identity as a threat and fights back hard. Smart approach: choose an identity that feels like a stretch, not a complete fantasy. If you're currently shy, don't jump straight to "I am the most outgoing person in every room." Start with "I am someone who speaks up when it matters," that feels challenging but achievable. Your brain can work with that. The weird part is how fast this actually works when you commit fully. Research from Stanford shows that people who adopt a new identity, even temporarily, start making decisions that match that identity within hours. When study participants were told they were creative types, they immediately began solving problems more creatively. Their behavior shifted before their beliefs caught up. Your environment plays a huge role here too. If you want to become someone who reads more, create a reading corner in your home. If you're becoming more organized, start with one perfectly organized drawer. Physical changes signal to your brain that something important is happening. Language becomes crucial at this stage. Instead of saying, "I'm trying to be more confident," you say, "I am confident and I'm still learning." That small shift changes everything. The first statement suggests you're not there yet. The second assumes you already are. You're just expanding that quality. Let's not forget the power of internal dialogue during this phase. Most people have a running commentary in their heads that sounds like their biggest critic. What if that voice started cheering you on instead? "I am someone who handles challenges well. I am someone who learns from everything. I am someone who doesn't give up easily." Some folks worry this feels like lying to themselves. Fair point, but consider this: every identity you've ever had started as something you tried on first. You weren't born knowing how to be a student, an employee, or a parent. You grew into those roles by practicing them until they felt natural. The brain's neuroplasticity means you can literally rewire yourself to match any identity you choose. But and this is important, choosing isn't enough. You have to start acting from that new identity immediately. Not tomorrow. Not when you feel ready. That's exactly what the next 48 hours are designed for. The moment you've recognized your old patterns and chosen your new identity, you might think the hard part is over. Wrong. The real magic happens when you force your body and brain to experience this new person immediately. Not tomorrow. Not next week. Right now, your brain doesn't distinguish between what's real and what's vividly experienced. That's why actors sometimes struggle to shake off character traits after intense roles. We're going to exploit this quirk of human psychology for the next 48 hours. Start with your body because it's the fastest signal system you have. If you normally wear jeans and sneakers, put on dress pants and leather shoes. If you're always in business attire, throw on athletic wear. The clothes make the person more than you realize. A study at Northwestern University found that wearing different clothing literally changes how your brain processes information. They called it enclothed cognition. fancy term for your outfit programming your thoughts. Then there's food. Your old self probably has eating patterns locked in stone. Break them immediately. If you grab coffee and toast every morning, switch to green tea and fruit. If you're a fast food person, spend the extra 5 minutes making something from scratch. Your taste buds are wired to your identity more than you know. Change the input, change the processing. But here's where most people stop. They think surface changes are enough. They're not. Your environment holds more power over your psychology than decades of therapy. Walk into your bedroom right now. What does it say about the person who lives there? Messy bed suggests chaos. Cluttered desk implies scattered thinking. Empty walls might mean playing it safe. Your space is broadcasting your identity back to you every single day. Rearrange everything. Move furniture. Clear surfaces. Put up different pictures. One woman told me she moved her bed to the opposite wall and suddenly started waking up earlier and feeling more motivated. Coincidence? Hardly. Your brain creates mental maps based on physical space. Change the map, change the mental territory. Let's talk about your daily route because this one's sneaky. You probably take the same path to work, the same route to the store, park in the same spots. Your brain goes on autopilot during these journeys, reinforcing the same thought patterns. Drive a different way for the next 2 days. Walk down streets you've never explored. Your brain will stay alert, creating new neural pathways instead of running old programs. Cold showers deserve special mention here. Sounds like self-torture, but there's science behind the suffering. Cold water triggers a massive release of noradrenaline in your brain. This chemical doesn't just wake you up, it literally rewires neural connections. Navy SEALs use cold exposure to build mental toughness. You're using it to shock your system into accepting change. 2 minutes of cold water can alter your brain chemistry for hours. Your voice carries your identity in ways that'll surprise you. Record yourself speaking normally, then practice introducing yourself differently. If you usually say, "I'm just a teacher," try, "I'm an educator shaping young minds." If you mumble, speak clearly. If you speak fast, slow down deliberately. Your brain listens to what comes out of your mouth and adjusts your self-concept accordingly. Weird but true. Now comes the part that makes most people uncomfortable. Going public with your change. Tell 3 people about your new direction within the next 48 hours. Not your closest friends who'll nod and smile. Tell people who matter not. Your boss, your spouse, someone whose opinion you respect. Research from the Dominican University of California shows that people who share their goals publicly are 65% more likely to achieve them. The accountability creates psychological pressure your brain can't ignore. But don't just announce it. Act it out in front of people. If you're becoming more confident, speak up in the next meeting. If you're becoming healthier, order the salad when everyone expects you to get the burger. If you're becoming more social, start conversations with strangers. Your public actions cement private changes faster than any affirmation ever could. The resistance will hit hard around hour 30. Your brain will scream that this isn't really you. That's exactly when you double down. The discomfort means it's working. Champions push through when quitting feels logical. Physical gestures matter too. Change how you sit, walk, and gesture. If you normally slouch, force yourself to stand straight. If you avoid eye contact, look people in the eye during conversations. Your posture programs your psychology more than positive thinking ever will. These 48 hours aren't about perfection. They're about disruption. You're creating enough chaos in your system that the old patterns can't run automatically anymore. Every different action is rewiring your neural networks in real time. The momentum you build in these 2 days creates the foundation for everything that follows, but momentum without emotional anchoring fades fast. Which brings us to the deeper work that transforms temporary changes into permanent shifts. Breaking old identity patterns isn't just about thinking different thoughts or changing your morning routine. There's something deeper happening in your body and brain that most self-help books completely miss. Your emotions are basically the glue that holds your old self together. And if you don't deal with them directly, they'll drag you right back to who you used to be. Here's what nobody tells you about emotions and identity change. Every time you've acted like your old self, your body created a specific cocktail of chemicals. Stress hormones, comfort chemicals, familiar feelings of doubt or confidence. Your brain got addicted to this emotional cocktail. It's like your nervous system is constantly craving the feelings that match your old identity, even when you consciously want to change. But here's the breakthrough part. You can reset your emotional state faster than you think. Start with your breathing. Not some complicated meditation technique that takes years to master. Simple, deliberate breathing that shifts your nervous system in real time. Breathe in for 4 counts, hold for 4, out for 6. Do this for just 3 minutes, and your brain starts producing different chemicals. The anxious, scattered feeling that keeps you stuck in old patterns begins to dissolve. Then there's something therapists have used for decades that works like magic for identity change. Write a goodbye letter to your old self. Not some fluffy gratitude exercise. A real letter where you acknowledge what that version of you accomplished, what they struggled with, and why it's time to let them go. One woman wrote a letter to her people-pleasing self and said she cried harder than she had in years. But afterward, she felt lighter, free, ready to become someone new. The weird part is how much your body holds on to old versions of you. Your posture, the way you move, even how you breathe carries the memory of who you used to be. Movement breaks this pattern faster than almost anything else. Dance to music you've never heard before. Stretch in ways that feel completely foreign. Take a walk with your shoulders back and your head high, even if it feels fake at first. Professional athletes do this all the time. They'll change their pre-game routine, their warm-up movements, even how they hold their equipment. Why? Because their body needs to feel the change, not just think about it. Your nervous system learns through experience, not ideas. Strong emotions are like super glue for new habits. When you feel something intensely while doing something new, your brain pays attention. It creates stronger neural pathways. This is why people remember exactly where they were during major life events. The emotion locks it in, but most people try to change with zero emotional intensity. They make quiet resolutions and gentle adjustments. Then they wonder why nothing sticks. Your brain needs to feel that this change matters. Create some emotional drama around your transformation. Get excited. Get scared. Get determined. Just don't stay neutral. One technique therapists use for major life transitions is called an emotional ritual. You physically act out the change you want to make. Throw away clothes that represent your old self. Burn old journals filled with limiting beliefs. One guy literally buried a photo of himself from his heaviest weight in his backyard. Sounds dramatic, right? But 6 months later, he'd lost 50 pounds and completely changed his relationship with food. Let's not forget that your emotions are contagious, even to yourself. When you act confident, your body starts producing confidence chemicals. When you move like someone who's already transformed, your nervous system begins to believe it. This isn't fake it till you make it nonsense. This is how your brain actually works. Your old emotional patterns will try to pull you back. You'll have moments where the familiar feelings of doubt or fear feel stronger than your new identity. That's normal. The trick is not to fight these emotions but to acknowledge them and choose different actions anyway. I see you, old fear. Thanks for trying to keep me safe. But I'm moving forward anyway. Physical touch can anchor new emotional states too. Press your hand to your heart when you feel proud of a change you've made. Create a physical gesture that represents your new identity. Touch your temple when you think a thought that matches who you're becoming. These small physical anchors help your body remember the new emotional state. The most powerful emotional anchor is actually celebration. When you catch yourself acting like your new identity, even for a moment, celebrate it. Not just mentally, physically. Pump your fist, say yes out loud. Do a little dance. This might sound silly, but your brain takes notes. It starts associating your new behaviors with positive emotions instead of the struggle and resistance you probably felt before. But emotional work alone isn't enough. Your subconscious mind needs deeper rewiring to make these changes permanent. That's where the real magic happens, and it's simpler than you might expect. The real work happens when you're not even paying attention. While you're sleeping, your brain is busy rewiring itself, creating new pathways based on whatever you fed it during the day. This is where most people mess up. They think the conscious effort is enough. Wrong. Your subconscious mind is running the show 95% of the time. So if you want lasting change, you need to speak its language. I am confident. I am disciplined. I am someone who follows through. These aren't just feel-good mantras, they're programming instructions for your brain. But here's the catch. You can't just mumble them while scrolling through social media and expect miracles. The subconscious responds to repetition, emotion, and specificity. When you say these statements out loud, your brain starts building neural highways to support that identity. Scientists at Harvard found something fascinating when they studied people practicing new skills. Brain scans showed actual structural changes in just 5 days of focused mental rehearsal. 5 days, the participants who simply visualized playing piano showed almost identical neural development to those who physically practiced. Your brain can't tell the difference between a vividly imagined experience and reality. This is where nightly visualization becomes your secret weapon. Right before sleep, your brain enters what researchers call the hypnagogic state, that drowsy twilight between waking and sleeping. During this window, your critical mind steps aside and your subconscious becomes incredibly receptive to new information. Professional athletes have known this for decades. They don't just practice physically, they run mental movies of perfect performance every night. But visualization isn't daydreaming. You need to feel it, not just see it. What does confidence feel like in your body? How do you walk when you're truly disciplined? What's your posture when you're living as this new version of yourself? The more sensory details you add, the more real it becomes to your subconscious mind. Then there's the power of hypnotherapy and guided meditations. Now, before you roll your eyes and think about stage hypnotists making people bark like dogs, understand that clinical hypnosis is serious science. Stanford researchers discovered that hypnotic states create unique brainwave patterns that accelerate learning and habit formation. During these states, the default mode network, the part of your brain that maintains your sense of self, becomes more flexible. Professional hypnotherapists report clients experiencing identity shifts in as little as 3 sessions. Why? Because they're working directly with the subconscious, bypassing all the conscious resistance and self-doubt that usually sabotages change efforts. You don't need a hypnotherapist though. Guided meditations designed for identity work can produce similar effects when used consistently. The weird part is how I am statements work differently than other types of affirmations. When you say I will be successful, your brain hears future tense, something that hasn't happened yet. But I am successful creates present tense reality in your neural networks. Your subconscious doesn't argue with identity statements the same way it questions goals or wishes. Dr. Joe Dispenza's research team used brain imaging to track people doing this identity work. Within just 4 days of consistent practice, they could see new neural connections forming in areas associated with self-concept and decision-making. The participants weren't just thinking differently, their brains were literally rewiring to support new identities. Let's not forget timing matters. Your subconscious is most receptive during 3 key windows: right after waking, during meditation or hypnotic states, and just before sleep. This is when your brain waves shift into alpha and theta frequencies, the same states experienced by monks during deep meditation and children during imaginative play. Morning declarations set the tone for your entire day. I am someone who makes powerful decisions. I am disciplined in my actions. I handle challenges with confidence. Say these while your conscious mind is still booting up and they slip past your internal skeptic. Consistency trumps intensity here. 5 minutes of genuine subconscious programming beats an hour of half-hearted positive thinking. Your brain builds these new pathways through repetition, not through marathon sessions of trying to convince yourself you're different. The most successful people using these techniques create what psychologists call implementation intentions, specific if-then scenarios that program automatic responses. When I feel the urge to quit, I am someone who pushes through. When faced with a difficult conversation, I am someone who speaks with confidence. These statements create neural shortcuts for your new identity to express itself automatically. Research from UCLA shows that people who consistently use these subconscious reprogramming techniques maintain their identity changes 80% longer than those who rely only on conscious willpower. The difference? They're working with their brain's natural wiring instead of fighting against it. Your subconscious mind is already programmed. The question is whether you're running outdated software or deliberately upgrading to match who you want to become. The next 48 hours of practice will determine which program runs your life moving forward. But there's another layer most people completely ignore when trying to change. Your brain absorbs more from your social environment than your morning coffee routine. The people around you don't just influence what you think, they literally rewire how your neurons fire. When someone changes their friend group, their speech patterns shift within days. Their posture changes. Even their sense of humor adapts. Here's what most people miss. You become the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. But it goes deeper than that. Your mirror neurons are constantly mimicking the energy, beliefs, and behaviors of whoever's in your space. That friend who always complains, your brain starts practicing complaint patterns. The colleague who radiates confidence, those neural pathways get stronger in your head too. Social media amplifies this effect by about 10 times. Your Instagram feed is basically a neural programming session. Every scroll rewires your brain to think certain thoughts are normal. Every post you see trains your subconscious about what success looks like, how people should act, what problems matter. The algorithm doesn't care about your 48-hour identity transformation. It wants to keep feeding you the old you. But here's the fascinating part. You can flip this social programming overnight. Start with your digital environment. Unfollow accounts that represent your old identity, not tomorrow, right now. If you're becoming someone who values health, unfollow accounts that glorify junk food and laziness. If you're becoming financially disciplined, unfollow accounts that normalize reckless spending. Your thumb has more power over your brain than you realize. Then there's the replacement strategy. Follow accounts, podcasts, and channels that represent your new identity. Your brain needs new reference points. When you see successful people doing what you want to do, your subconscious starts believing it's possible for you too. Mirror neurons don't distinguish between real life and digital interactions. They copy what they observe. The physical world requires more strategy but delivers faster results. You don't need to dump your old friends, but you need new inputs. Find one person who embodies the identity you're building. This could be a mentor, a new workout partner, someone at a meetup, or even a supportive online community. Spend time with them during your 48-hour reset period. Something weird happens when you're around people who see you differently. Your old friends might say, "You're not the gym type." But new people who meet you at the gym, they assume you've always been fitness-focused. Their assumptions become your reality faster than you'd think possible. Research from Harvard shows that peer groups drive about 50% of successful habit change. The other 50% comes from internal motivation, but without social support, most transformations fail within weeks. Your environment either reinforces your new identity or slowly erodes it back to the old version. Let's not forget the power of conversation topics. Your old social circle probably has predictable discussion patterns, the same complaints, the same gossip, the same limiting beliefs recycled endlessly. New social environments expose you to different problems, different solutions, different ways of thinking. Your brain literally expands when it encounters fresh perspectives. The accent effect demonstrates how fast social rewiring happens. Spend time with people who speak differently, and your speech patterns adapt within hours. Hang around confident people, and your confidence gestures emerge automatically. Surround yourself with people who take action, and procrastination feels foreign. Then there's energy matching. Every person carries an energetic frequency: optimistic, defeated, ambitious, cynical. Your nervous system syncs with whatever frequency dominates your environment. This isn't mystical nonsense. It's measurable through heart rate variability and brainwave studies. Change your social inputs, and your internal energy shifts to match. Physical spaces matter too. Coffee shops full of entrepreneurs feel different than bars full of complainers. Libraries create different mental states than casinos. During your 48-hour reset, choose environments that reflect your new identity. Your subconscious absorbs environmental cues and adjusts your behavior accordingly. The commitment factor multiplies everything. When you tell people about your identity shift, you activate social accountability. Studies show that public commitments increase follow-through rates by 65%. But choose your audience carefully. Share your transformation with people who believe in growth, not those invested in keeping you the same. Here's the contrarian truth. Some people in your life are emotionally invested in your old identity. They need you to stay small, predictable, or dysfunctional because it validates their own choices. These people will unconsciously sabotage your progress. Recognition protects you from their influence. Your new social environment doesn't have to be permanent, but it needs to be intentional. During identity transformation, every conversation either strengthens your new self or weakens it. Choose wisely. The brain that got you here won't get you there, but the right social inputs can accelerate neural rewiring beyond what willpower alone could achieve. Change your inputs, change your outputs. It really is that simple. Now that your social environment supports your new identity, those fresh neural pathways need daily reinforcement to become permanent. Small, consistent actions will either cement these changes or let them fade back to old defaults. You've cracked open your old identity and stepped into someone new. The breakthrough feels incredible. But here's what happens next that nobody talks about. Your brain starts looking for proof. It wants evidence that this new version of you is real, not just a weekend experiment. Without that proof, your mind will drag you back to familiar territory faster than you can say personal transformation. The proof comes from what you do every single day, not grand gestures or life-altering decisions. Tiny actions that whisper to your subconscious, yes, this is who I am now. Making your bed might sound ridiculous when you're trying to revolutionize your life, but neuroscientists have discovered something fascinating. Small wins create a cascade effect in your brain. When you complete one simple task successfully, your brain releases a hit of dopamine. That chemical reward makes you more likely to tackle the next task, and the next one. Before you know it, you're living like the person you decided to become. Admiral William McRaven gave a famous speech about this exact principle. He told graduates that if they wanted to change the world, they should start by making their beds. Why? Because you'd accomplish the first task of your day. It would give you a small sense of pride, and it would encourage you to do another task and another and another. Your new identity needs these daily victories to survive. Let's talk about something called habit stacking. This technique was popularized by behavior expert James Clear, but the concept is ancient. You take a habit you already do automatically, like brushing your teeth, and stack a new behavior right after it. The existing habit becomes an anchor for the new one. Say your new identity is someone who prioritizes health. After you brush your teeth in the morning, you immediately do 10 push-ups. That's it, not a full workout, just 10 push-ups. Your brain connects these actions until they feel like one continuous habit. Then there's something magical that happens. You start adding more without forcing it. 10 push-ups becomes 15. Then you're doing them before bed too. The weird part is how quickly this works. Within a week, skipping your new habit feels wrong. Your brain has already started rewiring itself around this new pattern. But here's where most people mess up. They try to change everything at once. They stack 5 new habits on day 1 and wonder why they're exhausted by day 3. Your willpower isn't unlimited. It's more like a muscle that gets tired with overuse. Start with one tiny habit, master it, then add another. Tracking your progress amplifies this effect dramatically. When you mark an X on a calendar or check off a box in an app, you're not just recording data, you're celebrating. Your brain interprets that checkmark as a reward, releasing more dopamine. The visual progress becomes addictive in the best possible way. Jerry Seinfeld used this method to become one of the world's greatest comedians. He marked an X on a calendar every day he wrote jokes. His only job was to not break the chain. After a few weeks, the chain itself became motivating. The longer it got, the more he wanted to protect it. You can use this same psychology to cement your new identity. Create a simple tracking system for the habits that match who you're becoming. The chain of X's becomes proof of your transformation. Then there's the technology angle that makes all of this easier. Apps can send you gentle reminders when it's time for your new habit. They can track streaks, send encouraging messages, and even connect you with others pursuing similar changes. But don't get lost in the technology. The app isn't changing you. Your daily actions are. Research from University College London shows that it takes an average of 66 days to form a new habit. Some simple habits take just 18 days. Complex ones can take over 200 days. But here's the crucial part. The first 48 hours are absolutely critical. That's when your brain is most plastic, most ready to accept new patterns. If you can make it through the first 2 days of consistent action, your odds of success multiply. Your brain starts anticipating the new behavior. It begins preparing the neural pathways before you even consciously decide to act. Most people think motivation leads to action. Actually, it's the reverse. Action creates motivation. Every time you follow through on a small commitment to yourself, you build evidence that you're the type of person who keeps promises. That evidence becomes fuel for bigger changes. Your habits are literally votes for the person you want to become. Each time you make your bed, you vote for being organized. Each time you write one page, you vote for being a writer. Each time you choose the salad, you vote for being healthy. The beautiful thing is that you don't need a majority to win this election. You just need to start casting votes. Your new daily actions are building momentum that will carry you forward, but what happens when that momentum faces its first real test? The hardest part isn't starting the transformation, it's staying transformed when life gets messy again. Your brain wants to slide back. That's not failure, it's biology. The neural pathways you carved over decades don't vanish overnight. They're like old hiking trails covered with fresh snow. Step in the wrong spot and boom, you're walking the same path your grandfather walked. But here's what most people miss. Momentum isn't about perfection. It's about recovery speed. When you catch yourself slipping into old patterns, how fast do you bounce back? The new you doesn't avoid setbacks. The new you treats them like data points instead of disasters. Weekly identity check-ins become your secret weapon. Every Sunday, ask yourself 3 questions. Who was I this week? What actions proved my new identity? Where did I act like my old self? Write it down. The act of reviewing locks in the progress and exposes the blind spots. Your brain loves evidence. Feed it proof that you're changing. Did you speak up in that meeting when old you would have stayed quiet? Write it down. Did you choose the salad when old you would have grabbed the burger? Document it. These micro-victories stack up faster than you think. Then there's the challenge paradox. Most people avoid difficulties because they're scared of failing. Wrong move. The fastest way to cement your new identity is to face something that would have terrified your old self. Apply for that job. Have that difficult conversation. Sign up for the thing that makes your stomach flip. Why? Because your brain measures identity through behavior under pressure. Anyone can act confident in their bedroom mirror. But handling a tough situation with grace, that's when your subconscious finally believes the change is real. Celebrating small wins isn't just feel-good advice. It's neuroscience. When you acknowledge progress, your brain releases dopamine. That chemical doesn't just make you happy. It literally strengthens the neural pathways you want to keep. Skip the celebration, and you're fighting your own biology. The weird part, most people celebrate wrong. They wait for huge milestones. Bad strategy. Your brain needs frequent reinforcement, not annual parties. Finished a difficult workout, 30-second celebration. Had a productive conversation instead of avoiding it, acknowledge it immediately. These tiny moments of recognition compound into unstoppable momentum. Let's not forget about your environment. That picture on your desk, the apps on your phone, the books on your nightstand, they're all voting for your identity. Every single day, make sure they're voting for the right person. Old triggers need to go. New reminders need space to work. Social momentum becomes crucial now. The people around you will either pull you forward or drag you backward. They don't mean to sabotage you, but if you've changed and they haven't, the dynamic gets uncomfortable. They'll make jokes about your new phase or pressure you to just be normal again. Stay strong. Surround yourself with people who see your growth and support it. This might mean some relationships fade. That's not tragic. It's natural. You're not the same person who formed those connections. Honor the past, but don't let it hijack your future. Here's the truth. Nobody talks about the more you practice being your new self, the stranger your old self feels. You'll look back at old photos or read old messages and think, did I really act like that? That disconnection is proof the transformation worked. Your new identity starts feeling automatic around day 60, but the foundation gets built in those first 48 hours. The actions you took, the environment you changed, the beliefs you challenged, they created the momentum everything else built on. Repetition becomes your best friend. Not mindless repetition. Conscious repetition. Every time you act like your new self, you're casting a vote for who you want to become. Miss a day? Cast 2 votes tomorrow. Miss a week? Don't spiral, just start voting again. The brain stops questioning the change when the new patterns become easier than the old ones. That's when you know the transformation stuck. You're not forcing yourself to be different anymore. You're just being you, the real you that was always waiting underneath. Most people think change requires constant effort forever. Wrong. Change requires intense effort for a short period, then consistent maintenance. Like learning to ride a bike. Brutal at first, then automatic. Your 48-hour reset was the jump start. Everything after that, it's just driving forward. Keep your foot on the gas, but don't exhaust yourself. You've already done the hardest part. The person reading this right now has everything needed to transform. You always did, you just needed the right approach and the courage to begin.